his investors and the local guys here as well. But so, Samir, you wanted to make a point. Go on.
But my guys, but anyway, I want to say one point before I go. That let us say that in the exit poll, the number had come out for NDA 295, which is what I can see on your screen. What would you think would have happened yesterday to the market or today or combined?
Nothing.
Nothing. Market would have been flat.
So that is what I'm saying. It would have been nothing plus minus 1% here or there, and that is where it will rest, and then we will move on. That is what I'm saying.
So you're saying with this,
if this number had come on Saturday,
right,
then yesterday's hyper and then today's reverse hyper would not have happened. You would have been saying, okay, they have won, but with a lower majority. But that is what normally happens in a third term, and there are some lessons there and some lessons there, and hope that as time goes on, there'll be some more consolidation and, maybe there is a market feedback or an economy feedback to the government. And so I would have moved on. Nobody would have been hyper.
But Samir, the thing is, these are still leads. These are not final numbers. We must keep that in mind as well, right?
I agree. But assuming that these leads are going sort of at this rate, of course, if it falls, then of course it's a different game.
Samir, we'll let you go for now because you want to, only because you want to, and we'll have you back in about an...
my guys and say, anybody getting hyper? I am not. That's why I've been hanging around here.
No, but please. This is what you're saying. If these numbers hold, kal ke number saaf ho gaye, kal ke gains saaf ho gaye, and this is it. Maybe a few percentage points more, maybe. But if these numbers hold,
you tell me. I am asking you. How do I know? I am just saying. If they had said in the exit polls 290, 300, who would have bothered?
Yeah.
It would have been neither plus nor minus. You would have said, chalo, big event out of the way.
Correct.
That's what.
Okay. Samir will join us. Samir will join us about an hour and a half when we have the firm tally. So thank you very much, Samir, for staying with us for now. Venu is with us. Venugopal Gare, head of research at Bernstein. Venu, you've been listening into the conversation, looking at the numbers. Shirin has been telling us what's going on. Your thoughts. You heard Samir as well. Would you kind of agree with that? That if the government is formed, that is essentially what matters. Beyond, of course, the intraday volatility, which is because of positioning as well, because people went long, so they would be, pairing of positions, etc. But beyond today, if the government is there and there is continuity, it should be okay.
No, I think broadly I agree with Samir as far as the medium to long term is concerned. So continuity of power is a very critical requirement for all the thesis with respect to how you look at cycles, how you look at medium-term growth, how you look at investments, from both domestic and FIIs into India. So as long as you're coming into power, that's good enough. The question around if the number of seats, of course, are not as high as you anticipated, would that lead to a situation where you go a bit populist, get into a bit more of subsidies? I dismiss this idea because I think at all that has to be done, that can be done 2 years later. It doesn't need to be done now. So I don't really see much of a change in flavor around what will happen post-election in terms of the broader agendas and policies of the government, right? So that is probably something which holds good. But on a very finer measure, look, what has been happening over the last 1 month is broadly trading, right? If these number of seats didn't matter, then we should not have seen the market also move anywhere, right? And my thinking is if exit polls had given you something like 290, 295, the market would have actually fallen yesterday materially. And then when you actually get 290, 295, the market would have actually been bit up today. So yesterday the market would have fallen. So that is a reality because people had in their minds that there will be at least 330, 340 seats for NDA. 360, 390 was something which was cemented earlier when the pre-polls sort of came in before phase 1, right? And 400 looked like a very tough act anyways, even at that point of time. So this is all trading going on right now. In any case, I won't read too much into where we end the day, in terms of market.
All right, Venu, so you're basically saying that, going by that pop that we saw and now the flattening out, this event could be a non-event on the whole, provided there is continuity at the helm. Venu, the couple of themes that you've liked actually have been this capex-related themes, manufacturing-related themes. Though those were sectors that you liked in comparison to IT or consumption. Any changes out there now? Will you get a little bit skittish? Private capex doesn't come back in a big way. Will that make you a little nervous?
See, capex and manufacturing are the core agendas of this government. right? I don't think that is going to change. When you see the 100-day agenda as well, you are going to see a lot of tangible announcements around those areas. That's going to be given, and more importantly, irrespective of whichever government had come to power, capex cycle basically is a cycle; it doesn't stop. So broadly over the next 3 years, you see government capex transferring and shifting towards private capex. Now, private capex is something which doesn't happen purely through policy. Of course, policy is required, but it is pretty much an organic capacity utilization factor. So capacity utilization go up, economy does well, you tend to set up more capacities. So that is more an eventuality. It always tend to lag in any case in cycles like this. So broadly, I don't think this script is going to change. Now, the way we are positioned is, of course, the fact that we have selective bottom-up picks within these areas, because in general, this is a discovered space. So valuations are not necessarily as cheap as they were before. So people have been pricing in some part of the cycle, but there are some areas where we felt that, for example, financials, for example, where valuations are not necessarily that aggressive, where there is still decent growth. We're overweight sectors like those, right? So it's not like we are purely overweight a cyclical capex play.
Okay. Let's just go back to the screen for a bit. It's still about 700 points lower. For what it's worth, I mean, now I think the dip has finally priced in the new reality. The first couple of minutes up until the first half an hour was all about pricing in what none of the polls threw up. So now that this has been priced in, the dip has stabilized to about 650 to about 500 odd points. Shireen, yeah, but looking at those numbers far more closely than perhaps one would have imagined at 8:30 in the morning.
Yeah, guys, I have to bring up UP for you because this is not a number that anyone expected. Forget what the exit polls said. And this takes me back to a conversation that we had when we were on the road in UP. And, the Congress said the alliance is going to do very well. And when we asked them that what does very well mean, the view was healthy double digit. I did not imagine that we would see this number on our screens. Still leads, we're caveating that, but no polls, no exit poll suggested anything of this kind as far as the state of Uttar Pradesh is concerned. Let's bring up UP for you. It's virtually 40-40 now. It's 39 for the India Alliance. It's 40 for the BJP as far as UP is concerned. So that is going to be the big one to continue to track and to continue to watch. But I also want to bring up some of the other states where Rajasthan, for instance, again, the expectation was that because of infighting within the BJP, that there would be a cost that they would have to pay. But in the last few days, again, what we were hearing was that they have managed to recoup and recover. So if you look at what's happening, even as far as Rajasthan is concerned, it's BJP 13, 12 to the Congress at this point in time. So again, much closer than what anybody had expected as far as Rajasthan is concerned. Also bring up Karnataka, because again, the polls said that Karnataka is going to be a clean sweep for the BJP as far as the Lok Sabha elections are concerned. 19 now for the NDA, 9 for the Congress as far as Karnataka is concerned. So the picture has turned a little bit there as well. Again, we're caveating that these are leads at this point in time. Similarly, if you take a look at West Bengal and Maharashtra, and let's bring up West Bengal and Maharashtra for our viewers, it is now the TMC at 21. That's the lead for West Bengal, and BJP at 16. The Congress, as I pointed out, Adi Roy Chaudhary, that seat is where it continues to lead. NDA 29 in Bihar, the India Alliance at 9. Maharashtra 23 for the NDA, 23 for the India Alliance at this point in time. That is how the story is stacking up as far as the other big state of Maharashtra is concerned. 23 for the NDA, 23 for the India Alliance. So it's now 291 for the NDA, 239 for the BJP, 216 for the India Alliance, and 94 for the Congress. Arvind Sawant now leading there as far as Maharashtra is concerned. He is Mumbai South leading. He is part, of course, the Uddhav Sena faction. Muzaffarnagar, the Samajwadi Party is leading in Muzaffarnagar, and that is telling you how the UP picture has turned differently from what the polls were suggesting and what the polls were predicting. Rajasthan now, the latest tally, 13 for the BJP, 12 for the India Alliance. Andhra Pradesh, 22 for, so this is going along expected lines, 22 for the NDA, Chandrababu Naidu pulling in his weight there, and 3 for Jagan Reddy's YSR Congress. The question now, of course, is how long drawn this process is going to be. It is clear it's not going to be an early call as we saw in the case of 2019, but we will have to wait to see how this plays itself out. What's happening in the markets, guys?
Shireen, I can tell you what's happening in the market is very different kind of buying. There is some buying that's emerged because a dip that was over 800 points odd is now down to just about a 550 point dip. It's not PSUs, it's not the Adani stocks that are getting bought, it's defensives all the way. The green is back on a Lever, Britannia. Pull up, these are the Nifty winners right now. So Lever, Britannia, Sun Pharma, Nestle, Apollo Hospital, Cipla, TCS, the market's moving back to safety. That's what this morning has been all about. Away from aggressive sort of economy-facing names, PSU names, back to safety. That's where the money is going in. Well, I think, Nigel?
Yeah, I'm just looking at the Nifty Bank, Surbhi, that's come off the day's low by closer around 600 points. So there's clearly some kind of bottom fishing that we're seeing on the Nifty Bank. So just keep an eye out because of the recovery that we're seeing actually in the Nifty Bank. That's why the Nifty as well has pulled back from those lows, Surbhi, that we're talking about, or around 22,400. The breadth of the market, that's where it'll be hurting your portfolio because you have only 190 stocks that are advancing. You have more than 2,000 stocks that are declining. So the crisscross lines come up for you on the screen, and that's why your portfolio is hurting because the breadth of the market is in favor of the declines.
And it's a market that's focused on nothing but the polar arithmetic. So let's do one thing, take a break. We'll come back with some political strategists, political experts who can make sense of all these trends and these leads that have come in so far. Back with that coverage. It is election verdict, full throttle. Back in just a moment with more.
Now embracing our certain attributes that actually make us successful, but that has come from validation. We were talking about looking for validation and looking for approval. I feel like that inner voice, go out and find people who are telling you what to hear. And I think that's actually helped. And it's helped not only because I'm in a sector that might feel that, oh, it's easy to have feminine attributes. If you're in the nonprofit sector, you'd be surprised. It's actually the same. When you look at senior roles in our sector, there's still very much.
Welcome back. So the market's digesting what was absolutely not thrown up by any of the polls. That reality has now sunk in after that big gash of about 800 odd points, 830 points. Now the cut is around 500 odd. So let's get in some experts on politics to make sense of what's going on. In front of us, we have Vivek Singh Bagri, political strategist at Lead Tech Political Consulting, as well as Niranjan Ramesh Babu, political analyst, joining in. Thank you, gentlemen, very much for being with us. It just takes me back, and I'm not drawing parallels, but it just sort of gets back to that story that polls are not always the same as, what the final reality is. There was 2004. This is not the same. I'm repeating. But again, this is not something that this was not the base case, as we say here in the markets, that, most were working with. So, Mr. Bagri, if I could start with you, what do you make of the fact that UP has emerged as, again, not to use harsh language, but, a bit of a Waterloo in the sense from projections of 60 plus, leads right now are indicating just about 40.
See, there were many factors changed during the election time. One is that Kunda Raja, if you talk about Kunda Raja, he went against the BJP and, he is a leader of the Thakur Samaj. So small factors played in this election, and Congress and India was setting the agenda, and this is the change. This was the new change that BJP and NDA was answering their set agenda, and BJP was not setting the narrative. Congress and these people were setting the narrative that see humne garda uda diya, and how crowd are coming in our rallies and they are breaking the barriers. So the kind of narrative they set for in their campaign, that has given a good boost to the India alliance.
Gentlemen, good morning, Mr. Bagri, Mr. Ramesh Babu, Prashant here. These are still trends which are coming in, right? Mr. Bagri, how much would you, but they tell you the direction very clearly.
See, basically the results are going to be like this only. It will not change much.
Okay. It'll be broadly in the same
broadly in the same category, maybe 2-3 seats here or there, but mostly the results, whatever you are seeing at present, you will see the same results.
Niranjan, you agree?
Yeah, it will be like I think within 2 to 3 hours the result will be announced, like the final result will be announced. Like so it's not going to be changed. Like almost it's leading, so it's going to be the lead. That's how I actually predict. But the thing is like all the things like as you told, like UP and Congress are what BJP thought is like so and as well as the market share, like as we were discussing previously, like the thing is like it was performing good in the morning, but now it's very going everything in the red, showing it since because like India Alliance they thought like it won't cross 200 mark, but now it's crossing 200 mark and it's now in 216 plus. They're looking into it. This might be an downturn in any big stocks. That's one reason. Yeah. And almost another from the another perspective, like if you look into the narrative, like what BJP and Congress said is like something different. And the thing is like people want Congress government, but BJP is very much more stronger than Congress. That is what is happening here. Yeah.
Got it. Got that. Niranjan, we'll come back to you. Thank you for joining us for now. Mr. Bagri, you want to make a quick point?
Yes. Basically, I want to add that Mayawati voters, Jato Samaj, which are traditionally voting for the BSP, this time they have also tilted towards India Alliance because they don't find, if BSP was fighting with full throttle, then definitely their vote consolidation and the vote would have been divided. But in this election, Mayawati ji was not playing, so strongly. Therefore, their vote base, shifted to Congress Party and India Alliance. And that was also a repercussion that BJP is not getting such kind of figures.
All right. Got it. Mr. Bagri, it's a good point that you make. We'll sort of come to you, but thank you for joining us at this point. I want to just take a quick look at the market as well. We're down, 420 points, 22,835, which means that, the market actually has come up from the day's low by a decent margin. We were down about 3.25%. The low is 22,389. We're at 22,822. So it's a big swing day so far. And we're, by the way, it seems like a long time, but we've not even been trading for an hour so far, right? Markets have started at 9:15. It's not even 10 o'clock this morning. And so much has already taken place. The Nifty Bank has also seen a very large swing. The low today is 48,741, and we're at 49,434. So really large swings. Even with regards to stocks, Nigel, the Adani Group stocks, they were all down 10%. They've recovered about 5% on an average. Some of the defense stocks were down, 9-10%. They're all recovering 4-5%. BEL is down about 6%. It's a big volume day as well. So look at BEL, which is down 6%. NHPC is down about 4.5%. GAIL is down 6.5%. GAIL went up 12% yesterday. GAIL is down. SJV, and it's all, yesterday was, the leaderboard was all PSUs. And today, the big movers, volumes are all essentially PSUs. But of course, it's on the other side. PNB is down 6%. IRIDA is down about 4%. HUDCO is down about 7%. IRCON, Bharat Dynamics, both are down 5% each. NBCC, IFCI, Shipping Corporation, and so on and so forth. So, it's a long list of volume-led losses today. But as I said earlier, what's happening on the stock market, very much tied to the hip to what's happening as far as the results which are coming in and the numbers that we are showing.
Just to pull up a few stocks, the FMCG names, the way they've recovered from the low point of the day. You have HUL, one of the biggest gainers in the last 40 minutes or so. You have Dabur. That stock is bursting away. It's up more than 5% as we speak. Some of these stocks are rural facing as well, and that explains why they've seen a big recovery. You have Colgate, Marico, all these FMCG related names are seeing a big recovery. And also you have Apollo Hospitals. The stock was down close to around 3.5%, 4% odd. Now it's up close to around 2%. So select stocks, they're seeing a big recovery as we speak. Shireen, I think, wants to come in. Shireen, over to you.
Well, you guys are talking about the markets coming off the intraday lows and staging a recovery. So just want to point out that there is a little bit of a recovery that we are seeing for the BJP in UP as well. The NDA now at 45, the India Alliance at 34. Remember, just a couple of minutes ago, it was 40 for the NDA Alliance and 39 for the India Alliance. So now 45 for the NDA Alliance and 35 for the India Alliance. So again, as we've been pointing out to all of our viewers, these are leads that are coming in. It is changing real time. So we need to be very, very careful before drawing conclusions and extrapolating, beginnings or endings of any kind. But this is the story at this point in time. The NDA now recouping a little bit, 45 now for the NDA and UP and 34 for the India Alliance. Of course, nothing close to what the exit polls were predicting, but nevertheless, in the last few minutes, we've seen a little bit of a recovery coming in there. Let's just bring up Delhi as well for you, because the picture there continues to be along predicted lines. It is largely in favor of the BJP, with one seat so far going for the India Alliance. So Delhi continues to be a stronghold as far as the BJP is concerned. Somnath Bharti, the last I checked, up against Masiri Swaraj, that was the seat that he was leading in. We'll have to see if that continues to be the case. Maharashtra, NDA 23, India 23, and that continues to be the story playing out there. So again, close. Gujarat, the BJP 26, India 3, and West Bengal, now you have the TMC at 22 and the BJP at 15. Overall, 297 for the NDA, 211 for the India Alliance, 91 for the Congress, and 242 for the BJP. So minor recovery coming in there on both the election ticker for the NDA as well as for the market ticker, guys.
No, absolutely, Shireen. But, it's a fast-moving screen here with the Nifty down 550 now. So, from the last time, from when we came to you, we're down a little bit more. But that's the kind of day we are in for. Nilesh Shah is with us right now. Nilesh bhai, good morning. Good to have you with us here. It's Shireen was outlining, right? In many of these states, it's much closer. UP especially. I don't think anyone really put the numbers as they're coming in. Almost 50-50. These are trends, and we'll have to wait for the final tally, etc. But what does it mean for the markets, Nilesh?
Well, Prashant, my sense is markets honestly will wait for the final outcome. I think, of course, the headline numbers may not necessarily be, scary, or it may not honestly mean any change, because still the NDA has essentially a majority. But yes, I think the internals, which is like what you said, the tally in Uttar Pradesh, these are some of the things which the market will begin to notice maybe after a day or two. I think for now, what the market will just be looking at will be is what are the headline numbers and who's in a stronger position to form the government. What it looks like from the headline tally, that it is going to essentially be the NDA and it's going to be a third term there, assuming these numbers turn out to be true by the end of the day.
Well, point taken, Nilesh. This is quite a surprise for the market and for all poll watchers. But the important point is these are leads. Let's not jump the gun. Leads do turn, and it could be phase-wise counting. So even the market shouldn't be jumping the gun at this juncture.
Brother, CNN is saying that round one is much slower than anticipated. The UP round one is not yet completed. So,
The counting.
so to the point that you're making, that these are trends which are coming in.
Exactly.
It seems, of course, and we had a political expert earlier who was saying that this should largely be similar. The final numbers, but these are trends.
No, I heard Bagri say that trends don't change, but we have seen in our own time.
That's what I asked him.
I'm a veteran of enough elections, and things have turned midway. So I think we shouldn't jump the gun. And those, of course, people who have money in the markets will have to think differently.
Yeah.
But clearly, we have to just wait before we pronounce anything. But Nilesh, what went through my mind is that if the BJP is dependent on alliance partners, and if this is what it is, by close of counting, then does the BJP become a more welfarist party? At the moment, their welfarism has been hemmed in by fiscal deficit, which was very good for markets, for macroeconomic resilience. But do you think welfarism can come back? And that's why consumer stocks are doing well. Anyway, your thoughts, Nilesh?
Yeah, that's the reality of politics, Lata, and that's the reality that yes, in the past, traditionally, coalition governments or not necessarily the strongest of coalitions have essentially been they have been more welfarist. That's the reality, and I don't think we should be surprised with that. Just that I don't think it's going to increase quite dramatically. I mean, there's already a fair bit of welfare measures which have been going. We have said this even earlier, that even 2019, the re-election was partly due to some of the welfare policies initiated during the first term. So things like free food for 80 crore people and some of the other welfare measures are still anyway there. So I actually don't think whether there's room to further increase meaningfully the welfareist things. Yes, there could be some bit of tweaking here and there and all, which can look to be kind of massively more welfareist. But otherwise, I think there are anyway significant number of welfare measures out there. So I'm not too sure that will change quite dramatically. What can happen is at the state level, and as different states go for elections, there you could see maybe a fresh bout of welfarism coming in. In terms of the TBTs and things of that kind. So that can surely come in. But I think at the central government level, I'm not quite sure if there is room to kind of significantly up the welfare things.
Okay. Well, as I was saying, we must be wary of calling leads as wins. We shouldn't confuse the two. And in the past about 5-10 minutes, we have seen the NDA number. Of course, this is out of 538. Jump from about sub 300 to 308. So clearly things are turning.
Our colleague Hormuz tells us that Suresh Gopi, who is a very popular Mallu film star, I mean, not yesteryears, but yeah, I mean, over the last couple of decades, he might become BJP's first win in Kerala. So he's leading in Thrissur by over 15,000 votes.
No, Thrissur was expected.
That's a large lead.
And Thrissur was the only one expected from the start to go. And there is also one of the constituencies outside of Thiruvananthapuram. I don't know if it was
Artangal.
Artangal and Thrissur are expected. I mean, that's where
they have
very
more
strong
chances,
BJP.
yes.
No, absolutely. And I guess for that reason, he will earn his place in the history books. So beyond all the films that he's done on a lighter note. But, I think for the market, the question that we're putting to a lot of our experts as we go forward is that whether there needs to be a shift. A lot of portfolios, domestic portfolios, domestic institutional mutual fund portfolios have been geared towards, loaded up on the PSU, loaded up on the CapEx theme, and a little sort of perhaps, underrepresentation by FMCG. Nilesh, since I have you with me on screen, before we go to Mangal, let me actually put that question to you. We're seeing some of that shift, knee-jerk shift obviously play out immediately today. But could this be a reality over the next coming weeks that institutional portfolios need to tilt away from CapEx, PSU defense, and back to a bit of defensives?
Yes, Surbi, that's quite likely to happen, assuming, of course, that this tally, the numbers that we are seeing on our screen in terms of tally, they hold out to be true. We really don't know that, but that's something which can surely happen. As it is, there has been a massive rally in PSU stocks, and it's quite possible that situations like this trigger some bit of profit booking, recalibration of exposures and weights to the PSU pack. So I definitely see some bit of tweaking happening out there. Whereas, the vast majority of the capital goods stock, yes, again, there could be some tempering in terms of exposures, but I don't think they will be quite significantly impacted. On the other hand, there could be a bit of shift towards defensives. IT, pharma, FMCG, these essentially could also be favored sectors, especially with crude oil prices falling. And if we were talking earlier of some of the other welfare measures, obviously that's going to boost rural spending, and the FMCG sector will be a direct beneficiary of some of these factors. So I think, yes, going forward, I surely see some bit of tweaking and recalibration of exposures happening.
Okay, speaking of FMCG, we have our resident in-house FMCG expert joining in. Mangalam's with us, not only to talk about FMCG, but overall market trends. Mangalam, it's been quite an exciting morning. What are you tracking?
Quite an exciting morning indeed, and not the least exciting for someone who's tracking the FMCG space, Surbhi. But what's most exciting about the market right now is that the volatility index itself is the most volatile since morning. It opened lower. Thereafter, we saw a big spike of nearly 22-23% and thereafter it's cooled off a little even as the market recovered from the lows. And now as that recovery is being sold into as well, it's the India VIX, which is now sitting with a gain of double digits itself. So that's something that we need to track. That will be the lead indicator of which way the market goes. The other things to track, of course, will be the kind of moves that we're seeing in stocks, which are considered to be favorites of a continued policy. So PSUs, Coal India, BHEL, ONGC, SBI, all of them lower, giving up all the gains that we saw in yesterday's trading session. Even the pet theme of the government, which is power, defense, infra, and rail. So we have Power Grid, PFC, REC. PFC, REC actually were the ambassadors of the up move that we saw in both the PSU power and finance themes. And then we saw some, give back in gains for names like HAL, BEL, and Bharat Dynamics as well. And the rail stocks, they've been near 10 baggers over the last couple of years or so. And now as, the leads come in, we are seeing some sell-off in all the rail stocks as well, more so in the PSU-owned rail counters like RVNL, IRCTC, and IRCON 2. Financials, a lot of the street was hoping for some sort of, recovery in the financial space, in particular, given the focus on rural housing and affordable housing. But that seems to, be taking a bit of a backseat right now as well. We are seeing some decline in housing financiers, some of them like LIC Housing Finance as well. And then the Adani Group had seen a near 40% rally in some of the stocks over the last two trading sessions, and now all of them are under pressure. Now, speaking about FMCG, all the FMCG stocks are doing well. The street is hoping for some more swaps coming in from the new government. At the same time, we are seeing signs of rural recovery. We are seeing signs of monsoon advancement. And FMCG in a volatile market anyway is seen as flight to safety. Add to all of this, given the sort of up move that we've seen in all the other sectors, the valuations for FMCG seem relatively unchanged over even 2019 levels. So all these factors are doing well for them. So irrespective of what the outcome of the results are, seems like that, for the near term, FMCG looks like a good place.
Well, that's exactly what money managers seem to be thinking right now, going by the cuts that are coming in on the CPSE index, on the bank PSU index, PSE index, and so on and so forth. Bit of a portfolio shift towards the defensive side of the market. Remember, you're getting all of this analysis live coming to you from the CNBC TV 18 HDFC Sky Election Headquarters. With that, let's go back to Shireen. Let's see what she has her eye on now. Shireen, so markets are kind of stabilizing. They've digested this new normal, as they say, with about a 450-point cut.
I wouldn't know about digesting just yet, Surbhi, because things are still changing as we speak. And since you were talking about the market internals, let me go back to the election internals as well. And let's bring back Uttar Pradesh for our viewers, because the tally has changed since we last spoke. It's now 43 for the NDA and 36 for the India Alliance. In fact, a crucial couple of seats in UP to bring up. Rahul Gandhi extending his lead in Rai Bareli by about 18,500 votes. This is as per the Election Commission's data. And in that crucial seat of Amethi, where it was expected to be a battle between Smriti Irani and Rahul Gandhi, but eventually turned out to be a battle between her and Kishori Lal Sharma of the Congress Party. Old hand of the Congress Party, a local of Amethi, extending his lead to 14,000, this as per the Election Commission website. So those two big seats in UP, and of course Akhilesh Yadav is leading at this point in time in Kannauj. But the tally for UP, 43 now for the NDA and 36 for the India Alliance. Let's just bring up West Bengal, because that has seen a change as well since the last time that we spoke. The TMC has edged up higher, 27 seats now for the TMC in West Bengal in terms of leads, and 15 where the BJP is leading at this point in time, and it's 1 for the Congress Party, but it is 27 now in terms of leads for the TMC in West Bengal. So that's the story. Also interesting, it's not just the Lok Sabha elections. We do have assembly elections on in 2 states. So the TDP, Chandrababu Naidu, leading in 90 assembly seats in Andhra Pradesh. So this was expected. This is what the polls had thrown up, and it is going along those lines. So trouble for Jagan Reddy via Congress, the TDP now leading in 90 assembly seats as far as Andhra Pradesh is concerned. And guys, you know, it is going to be a comeback for Chandrababu Naidu, has been forced into political oblivion for the last several years now and has made his way back, and it is expected to be a victory for Chandrababu Naidu's TDP there as far as Andhra Pradesh is concerned. But NDA now 42 in UP, 37 for the India Alliance. We do have all 543 leads now coming in, 305 for the NDA, 15 for the India Alliance, 96 for the Congress, and 248 for the BJP. Back to you.
Okay, things are a bit malleable or moving at this point in time, Shireen. Our data, which includes Election Commission as well as ground reporters who are close to the Election Commission, giving the NDA 306 out of 543. Another channel is giving 286 out of 543 to the NDA. It's a huge difference, 20 seats difference. Of course, all are leads. But I mean, it's just so on the wall, as it were. It's Humpty Dumpty on the wall. It could go either ways. We'll have to wait and see. By the way, Shireen, another minor state which we don't, or rather small state which we don't think of often, Chhattisgarh, was expected to be a clean sweep for the BJP. It's now split down the middle. Maybe if we can get Chhattisgarh, I think I saw 6 and 5 for NDA in India a little while back. It's only 11 seats at stake.
8 and 3,
Okay,
Lata.
8 and 3 now. All right. A little
It's
while
8
ago,
and 3 for Chhattisgarh at this point in time.
okay. A little while ago, it was a little more even, Steven. So things are moving very much over there as well. Okay, Nilesh, let me come back to the question I asked you about the FMCG performance. I'm going by exactly like my DNA, a bond market reporter. Yesterday, the bonds went down all the way to 6.94, the 10-year. Today, it is at 7. In fact, it was 7.01 a little while back. Clearly, the expectation being that the huge fiscal deficit crunch that was expected may not come after all. Perhaps that's what the bond market is fearing. Otherwise, there's no reason, because the US bonds actually fell overnight. So the only trigger, and crude has fallen. Everything should have pushed the bond yields even lower, but bond yields have jumped.
Yesterday, bond yields were absolutely flat, right?
694. You were looking at the older 10-year. The new 10-year went down from 6.98 to 6.94. That's the overnight close. Now it is 7.0. So, you know, 6 basis points higher. Probably that big faith that fiscal deficit will go down aggressively is getting watered down, or maybe this is just trading profit taking at this point. But just to come back to you, Nilesh, if these are the final results, you know, around 300 for the NDA and you know, the India Alliance coming in with a fairly decent 215, 220. Do you think you'll change your positioning in terms of stocks? Would you look at a different set of stocks, Nilesh?
Lata, yes. Obviously, the emerging political scenario definitely will call for some kind of recalibration or some tweaking in terms of allocations to different sectors. There are a set of sectors, primarily PSUs and some of the other infrastructure and capex-oriented sectors, which have witnessed quite significant price appreciation. A lot coming in because of PE re-rating or multiple rating, and the markets kind of having much higher levels of confidence and therefore assigning significantly higher valuation multiples. If this is essentially the final, if the numbers that we see on the screen now is going to be the final tally 24 hours from now, you surely seeing some softening on those PE multiples, particularly for the PSU pack. So if we see the situation actually emerge like this, there would surely be some kind of compression in the PE multiples, and it's going to essentially lead investors to allocate or take some money off the table from PSUs, because obviously keep in mind they're significantly in the money right now, and obviously that capital will get allocated to some of the other sectors. In an environment like this, yes, FMCG is going to look to be the most defensive. It is going to look to be the most strongest fort out there. In addition to, of course, what we see on the political front, in addition to that, the softening of crude, the upping of rural spending, all of that augurs well for the FMCG sector. And you're going to see some bit of allocations also go into IT and pharma because those are the sectors which are the least dependent on any government policy.
Okay. What about manufacturing and construction? Those were the other big winners in the run-up to the counting day.
That still remains a strong play. I don't see this political uncertainty impacting manufacturing or construction activity. I think that will continue unabated as long as we have a conducive interest rate environment and there are no major policy changes. I continue to believe that manufacturing will essentially continue with its outperformance. Keep in mind, for any administration, any government, that whole shift from farms to factories would require a big leg up to manufacturing. So irrespective of which party is in power or which alliance is in power, I still think the focus on manufacturing will not go away. The China plus factor is still as strong and as structural as ever. So I still believe that manufacturing as a sector still looks extremely attractive.
Okay, all right, Nilesh. On that note, we will let you go. It's been a roller coaster morning. Thank you so much for being with us, and of course, we will be touching base with you, fairly frequently as we make sense of a lot of these trends when they finally, come down to the overall tally. Let's move on and say hello to our next set of guests. Subrikant Panda, who is the former president of FICCI, as well as the managing director of IMFA, as well as Subhash Garg, former finance secretary. Both of them have joined in. Gentlemen, thank you so much for being with us. Mr. Garg, let me open with you. I think, the narrative, the discussions here have now moved to asking the question, will policy, if we work with the assumption that NDA is coming back a third term, will policies and priorities be any different if the number stands at 300 and not 350, 360, which the polls were predicting? Your sense?
So my sense is that one big message which the NDA government and the Prime Minister Modi should be reading is that there is a real distress in people, whether it's coming out from the unemployment or lower income, lower consumption, as you see it in the data reflected very clearly. Only the investment is going in big way, and that investment was also funded largely from the borrowed money, whether it's housing or in the corporate sector. So that message, if the government reads, and I am assuming at this moment that the government will be again that of the BJP led by Prime Minister Modi. It may not hold that way as we go along, but at this moment I'm assuming that. So if that message is read, then I believe that there would be change in the fundamental policy construct which the government has been following for last 3 years, which is high capex led, lower on the employment and wages story, partly supplemented by the Labharti, the giveaways in the form of free food, free fertilizer, etc.
Yeah.
So that might change if the message is read rightly.
Okay.
But if that message is not read that way, and it is taken as confirmation of what the strategy in NDA 2, that is 2019-24, which is very different from NDA 1, which is 2014-2019, then much of what we saw in last 3 years might continue. More capex.
No, absolutely, sir. And thank you for raising that point. That's a very important point that you raised. And Prashant, it just gets me thinking, we've all spent the better part of the last 1 year talking about premiumization trends, talking about, booming consumption at the top of the pyramid, those houses, in NCR selling for 6-7 CR, and the struggle at the bottom of the pyramid. And perhaps some of that could be maybe resonating in some of the numbers that we're seeing specifically in the north.
Surabhi, you're young. I've gone through the India Shining campaign, and perhaps there are shades of it.
But I started my career when India Shining happened, so I have very good memory of 2004.
But I'll tell you one thing though. We were in the morning when we started, we were saying that by 10 o'clock, 10:30, 11, it'll all be clear. I don't think this will be clear by 1 o'clock.
Yeah.
I think even 2 p.m.
Yeah.
We'll have to wait till 2 p.m. to get a real sense of, what the numbers actually will look like. So
yeah, we have egg on our face, but a lot of people have much more egg on their faces.
Yeah. Actually, let me just put one question to, just one more follow-up to Mr. Garg. Mr. Garg, it's interesting what you say because, as Surabhi was also pointing out, that many in stock markets who invest, they've also been saying, well, maybe it's time to look at things which have not done well, and things which have not done well are things which is mass oriented, not at the premium end. If you were to look ahead, what could be not populist, but from a government sort of policy perspective, top down, what could be the focus? Some have suggested it could be housing, right? Electricity, Nal, Jal, all of that has been the focus over the last couple of years. Could housing come back in a big way as a theme, a macro theme? What's your sense?
See, housing has been the big theme of the government already in the second term and as well as in the first term. It's only in the last year, if you look at very closely, there was some momentum loss in the government program on housing, especially on the rural housing. That I found was a little surprising, because the implementation record of this government has been phenomenal, but in the housing sector, it looked that the thing was not doing that well. Similarly, the Nal se Pani, that Har Ghar Jal, Har Ghar Jal and Har Ghar Nal program seem to have actually sputtered in the difficult areas where it was really intended to bring benefit, and we had still about 5 crore to 6 crore connections which were not delivered, which was otherwise promised. So the implementation of these populist, I wouldn't say them completely populist, they actually serviced the real basic needs of the people. And in the first tenure, the record in electricity, toilets, housing was phenomenally good.
Yeah.
But in the second term, that record was not that good. So if you read that, that's a very direct way of reading. Instead, what you saw was very high expansion on fertilizer subsidies, food subsidies being given away completely 100%, which was not at all required. And in between, for about 2 years, you had raised 5 kg to 10 kg.
Yeah.
So those were more direct populist
The
kind
point
of
is taken, sir. I agree with you, but I would assume that there was a logic in saying that 10 kilos was a bit too much, and also grains stocks were depleting after the Ukraine war. I guess there was an emergency which the government had to address. It was an El Nino year as well. So with the higher prices, the procurement wasn't as successful. But we'll come to that. We have the industry veteran, Subrakanta Panda, also with us. Mr. Panda, thank you very much for your patience. Are you expecting tweaks in policies?
Look, good morning, first of all. And let me put it this way. I think from an industry perspective, the view is actually more of the same, irrespective of which government comes to power. And having said that, it does look like at the moment that that the NDA will be back in power, and therefore it should be the Prime Minister continuing in his present role. But there is a lot to be done to cement India's progress, what we have gained in the last decade or more in terms of becoming a viable alternative as a manufacturing destination, not just the backroom office of the world, but also the factory of the world. So therefore, there is a lot of work to be done. I think primarily focused around strengthening manufacturing competitiveness. There are many steps that need to be taken in this regard to again build on the efforts of improving enhancing the ease of doing business and reducing the cost of doing business. But a lot of work needs to be done in that regard. And besides that, I think there are measures which can be taken, such as, in my opinion, initiating GST 2.0, because GST was obviously the most significant reform which this country has seen. But I think the time has now come to further simplify it in a revenue neutral manner, which will build on what it has achieved, which is to dismantle the internal barriers to trade, as well as greater formalization of the economy. And one of the success areas which has been the PLI schemes, I think in a considered manner, the incoming government should look at broadening the scope, but more important.
Okay. Yeah, Mr. Supanda, we have just lost your voice. We'll come back to you, but I think the point he's making is well taken, that there were many sensible schemes and they should and would continue.
Yeah.
See, let's look at the reality. If it is going to be 300 out of 543, it's a comfortably stable government. It's very good for the citizens of India if there is a government which, regardless of its stability, has to look over its shoulder to see that it is not losing it. So we are actually in for a much better situation if this tally continues. A government that doesn't feel it can get away with mistakes, that it can get away with, the odd MP who is misbehaving and is not brought to book soon enough. It's actually a very good tally if it comes this way. We have a stable government, we have continuity of policy, but we have a government that feels a little more responsive, would be the way I look at it. But the bigger thing is, will they now have the courage to go with one election, for the state and center elections together, the one that is, very much on the anvil? Shireen, before I come to you for just a minute, let me get a very quick answer from Mr. Garg. Mr. Garg, do you think that one nation, one election gets a little postponed now?
I don't think that's even constitutionally and legally possible, practically impossible. I don't think that's going to happen.
All right. Well, I just feel that politically the BJP may feel that this is not the right time. Over to you, Shireen.
Well, I just wanted to go back again to some of the numbers that we continue to track and bring up West Bengal, UP and Maharashtra, because those are the three big battleground states. And if you take a look at the leads now, the NDA now leading in 42, the India Alliance 37. That is how the story is playing out for UP. If we bring up West Bengal, 31 now for the TMC and 10 leads for the BJP. So the TMC has been edging up through the morning and now crossing the 30 mark. Bihar, clear dominance for the NDA as per the leads at this point in time, 34 for the NDA, 6 for the India Alliance. Maharashtra, the India Alliance has the edge. Let's bring up Maharashtra for our viewers, because the India Alliance now has the edge in Maharashtra. 27 coming in for Maharashtra for the India Alliance versus 20 for the NDA. So those are some of those, big battleground states that we need to watch closely. But the NDA tally has crossed 300. The BJP now 245, the Congress at 95, and the India Alliance at 221. Let's just bring up Tamil Nadu for you, because, there'll be plenty to smile about in the DMK camp. Look at the way the Tamil Nadu has gone. As per the leads, India leading in 36, the AIA-DMK 2. Even in Karnataka, it's not a washout as the polls were predicting. The Congress leading in 8, the NDA in 20. We will have to see. I think Prajwal Ravana was trailing, but now is back in the lead, but very, very slim margin. We don't have the margin pictures as well at this point in time. In many seats, we are seeing margins very, very thin. So we will need to watch those contests closely as well. Supriya Sule now back in the lead as far as Baramati is concerned. And as we pointed out, Rahul Gandhi leads both from Rai Bareli as well as from Wayanad. And that is Dimple Yadav, Mainpuri, the big seat in UP, and Kannauj, where her husband Akhilesh Yadav is also leading at this point in time. And Haryana as well. It's now in favor of the India Alliance if you go by the leads. Remember, Haryana has 10 seats, all 10 leads coming in. India leading in 7, the BJP leading in 3 at this point in time. So off script, at least as far as some of those states are concerned, when we talk about what the exit polls were forecasting and what the number at this point in time, again, at this point in time, are suggesting. 300 for the NDA, 222 for the India Alliance. Back to you guys.
Shireen, that West Bengal number that you put out, right, which some of the exit polls were talking about how that sort of coast of Bay of Bengal, and how some of the losses in the Hindi heartland could be more than made up by what's happening there. I mean, that's not playing out. That's a big number for the. These are, of course, leads still, just to re-emphasize, but 30 for the TMC, as you said.
Absolutely, Prashant. And that's why I've been bringing up these states, because this is going contrary to what the polls were predicting, what the polls were expecting. And these are going to be crucial states to get the BJP to that 272 number as well. Remember, the BJP at this point in time is 245. So while the NDA by itself may have crossed the 300 mark, the BJP is at 245. So this is going to be crucial as well, because you know how much bargaining power, how much leverage one can enjoy, how much weight one can pull. All of those will be important. But we'd also have to look at vote share, because remember at the start, Prashant, when we were talking, and I pointed out that all the polls were consistent in saying that the BJP would be almost double of the Congress vote share. So they were predicting a BJP vote share of close to about 40% and a Congress vote share of about 20-odd%. In fact, and one of the polls gave it a number of closer to 23%. But if you look at what the EC website is suggesting at this point in time, the last I checked, and that was about 30 minutes ago, it was about 28% in terms of vote share for the Congress. So perhaps, and this reminds me of what Yashant Deshmukh, the pollster, was cautioning, that we need to be mindful of just doing this sort of vote share to seat share conversion, and we need to be mindful of that, which is why they were CSDS, for instance, didn't put a seat share number. But all of this is still up for grabs, and 307, so edging higher now for the NDA, 250 for the BJP, gains coming in there. The TMC now in West Bengal leading in 27, and the BJP in 14.
Well, all right, Shireen, thank you very much for the latest over there. So pretty much still at the edge of our seats, us and I think everybody who's watching this electoral outcome. Well, let's also welcome in the conversation Mr. Surjit Bhalla, who's an eminent economist, author, and columnist. So thank you very much. Great to have you join us in this discussion, in this debate. So yes, I mean, right now our tally is talking about around 305 plus 307 as per the latest leads. And the discussion that we were just having before you joined in was that, do you expect any significant change in the policy tilt if this number indeed stabilizes at around 300 as opposed to 350, 360? Your thoughts?
No, I don't think if this is the end result, and it looks like it's converging to somewhat 300 to 320 or 290 to 320 for the NDA. I don't expect changes in existing policies, but some of them, which I just wrote about, for example, the attitude or the policy towards foreign direct investment, etc. So those policies should change and probably will change. So it's a fantastic check and balance that what we are seeing operating here. My own forecast, as written in the book, how we vote, was for a much larger mandate to the NDA and to the BJP. So I think it's democracy back in action. So whenever you have close, if you will, races, it is the policy that you will get will be less extreme and more balanced. None of the existing policies, I think, in terms of the economic policies, are likely to change. Some of the political policies might change.
Political policies may change, not economic. That's not what the bond market is going by, Mr. Bhalla. At the moment, bond market yields have gone up by 7 basis points. As we were speaking, the yield went from 6.94 overnight to 7.02, now at 7.01. So just a fear that the fiscal discipline of yesteryears may flag a bit. But Dr. Bhalla, just wait on for a minute. Surjit, Shireen has more political updates. Shireen?
No, I actually wanted a quick question in with Surjit Bhalla, because, I moderated the launch of Citizen Raj, which was the book that he previously wrote. I missed this one. So, Mr. Bhalla, thanks so much for joining us here. My loss entirely for missing out on the launch of this one. But I just wanted to understand from you, what do you make of what we're seeing play out in UP, what we're seeing play out in West Bengal? Because it's contrary to what the polls were predicting, and it's also contrary to what your own expectations were.
Yeah, so UP, West Bengal, and you missed out on Rajasthan. So there are 3 states that are going completely contrary to the exit polls. So I think one of the talking points after the election is over is that there was first a massive convergence in the exit polls. And normally when you have a massive convergence in the exit polls, you don't get them wrong. So this is the case where the whole class failed. And the only other time that I remember, and at that time I was on the right side of the coin, was the Bihar election in 2015, when the whole class was saying that Lalu would lose, and he came back with a resounding victory. So, you know, these checks and balances are fantastic, both for democracy and for policy, because I think now there will be a greater coherence in the policy on the economic side. And, you know, on Lata's question, I think, look, I don't think the fiscal deficit is in threat. In other words, or the reaction of the government. The government is not, in my opinion, not going to go out and spend more. I think what Mr. Modi has shown is a strict adherence to fiscal deficit, actually much more than I have advocated and liked. So I think that one is fairly stable and not where I would expect is, if you will, towards a more expansionary fiscal policy.
So Bhalla, just to give credit where it's due, there was one poll which gave 281 to the NDA, and that was the Dainik Bhaskar exit poll. So to be fair to them,
there was,
at the moment, they are the ones who are perhaps a little closer, but we could never, you can't tell. At the moment, it still looks like the NDA is not 281. But their range was, I think, 281 to 330 or something. So they are perhaps well within the range compared to the other pollsters.
You know, the so-called Satta market, follow the I remember Thursday evening, this is last week, Thursday evening, their number was 303 for the NDA. That was for the BJP.
Okay.
303
for the BJP. Yeah. BJP is now not 250.
Yeah, for the BJP. So, I mean, you know, yeah, actually, so this is a very different kind
Satta market and the exit polls have both got it wrong
on the opposite
point in time. Okay.
Absolutely.
Mr. Garg, okay. Well, Mr. Garg, just wanted to finally ask you if the tally remains around the current levels, as Mr. Bhalla says, and something I'm really happy about. It's good that democracy is reasserting itself. You have a stable government, but a government which genuinely feels that it is answerable because it has lost about 50 seats compared to its previous tally. How do you think things can change in terms of the way the policies could go from in the first 125 days?
And if I could just add to Lata's question, exactly was coming to that point, because Mr. Garg, you started by saying that if the NDA decides to read and interpret this result in a way that it needs to do more at the bottom of the pyramid, then just tell us. I mean, and you've been in the hot seat, been there, done that. What tweaks would you expect, if at all, on policies which are more rural facing, beyond a lot of the flagship schemes like, you know, Har Ghar Nal and Ayushman Bharat, etc.? What else would you expect this government to do?
And by the way, before you respond to that, Dr. Bhalla was also, he also used to be a money manager. I don't know if you still do that, Dr. Bhalla, but go on, sorry.
No, Mr. Garg.
I left that about a decade ago.
We're just coming to you, Mr. Bhalla. Mr. Garg, what should we expect by way of policy?
I think one very critical and crucial factor is how much BJP ends with.
Okay.
Don't read NDA number as a very stable mandate for the BJP government led by Prime Minister Modi. If that is below 250, then you have a very great destabilizing factor as far as NDA is concerned. And if that government gets formed with NDA, let's say about 300, and with BJP at 240, 250, that would have a very, very different sort of complexion of policy. Then you can't assume continuation of term 2 policies, which to my mind are not very much economically sound. We can debate that. The big plank of the government in phase 2 or term 2 was non-economic issues. You go to Ram Mandir, you go to Kashmir, you go to polarization and many of those things, and found out the opposition by using or misusing EDs and others. So if this mandate comes, I don't think the NDA allies would go with that policies to continue, those three kind of things. And that may bring a lot of friction and instability. So I think it's too early to wait for how do they redefine their economic policies and their beneficiary policies. I don't think it's the time for making guesses on that. Let's wait.
Sure. No, I agree with you, Mr. Garg. I think that's a very valid point that you make. And let me take that point across. In fact, you preempted the question that I wanted to put to Surjit Bhalla. Mr. Bhalla, if you look at the screen at this point in time, it's 303 for the NDA, down 50 versus 2019, and 218 for the India Alliance, up 100 for the India Alliance, going by the leads so far. But the BJP at this point is at 246, Mr. Bhalla. As Mr. Garg was pointing out, I mean, yes, NDA 300, 310, whatever the number eventually may be, but BJP, anything less than 272, how does it change the dynamics?
Well, okay, there's a political dynamic and there's an economic dynamic. So here I am afraid I have a divergence of opinion with Mr. Garg. I think economic policies, if anything, would be better if these numbers pan out. They won't be worse. For example, as I just wrote on foreign investment, etc., that they will be concerned with more growth rather than less growth, with more investment rather than less investment. So on economic side, I'm very comfortable with this kind of a scenario panning out, with the BJP getting maybe 250, 260. I think what Mr. Garg pointed out correctly, it's on the political side that you will expect changes, or one should expect changes. And that the political side will move more towards the center rather than to the edges. And so I think in that sense, it's a win-win situation. On economics, I feel very comfortable stating that I don't expect any negative changes on economic policy. And that's not to say I don't expect any zero change. I do think that there have been some negative economic policies. We had the famous credit card thing that they came up with, which nobody could have imagined. And thankfully, it didn't get passed. So I think, this may be a very, very positive scenario opening up, both on politics, that it will be moving towards the center, on economics, that it will be more responsible policy.
Right. So just again, recapping the numbers, it's 302 for the NDA, 245 for the BJP, 218 for the India Alliance, and 92 for the Congress. Back to the crucial states of West Bengal, 28, that's the lead coming in now for TMC. In Maharashtra, the India Alliance leading in 26 and the NDA in 21. If you look at the state of Haryana now, the India Alliance leading in 6, the BJP in 4. UP, the NDA at 40, leading in 40. So that's the picture playing out there as far as those crucial battleground states are concerned. 246 for the BJP at this point in time. Interesting internals. Could we see an upset in Thiruvananthapuram? At this point in time, it looks like Shashi Tharoor is trailing by about 5,000 votes. He's up against Rajiv Chandrasekhar. So could we see an upset there? Smriti Irani also continues to trail in Amethi. That's the Kerala picture playing out for you. Prashant Lata, back to you.
Okay.
All right.
So here we are at the moment, 304 for the NDA out of 543. But of course, still counting. We just want to remind viewers that you are tuned in to our election exchange, which is being sponsored, of course, by HDFC Sky as well. Let me get to Mr. Bhalla again. Mr. Bhalla, you began by saying that the credit card scheme, foreign credit card expenses and capping that was a nasty jar that came from the government. Anything else you see changing?
No, I think on foreign investment, it's down and a lot of people have commented on it. And we try to look at as to why it is down. And it is likely to be because of the bilateral treaty imposition. So I think that is something that I would very much expect to change. So that's another, if you will, a negative policy that can move in the positive realm. On the subsidies, etc., I don't see too much change in there. And as far as I mentioned earlier, in terms of the fiscal deficit, I think the government will continue to be fiscally responsible. So, as I said, basically on the political side is moving more towards the center, and on the economic side, moving towards more responsible policy.
Right. Mr. Bhalla, I want to come back to the political aspects and the political dynamics now. And if these numbers play out the way that they are looking at this point in time, then let's talk about the possible kingmakers as well and the leaders who could enjoy leverage. Nitish Kumar delivering for the alliance in a way, I suppose, in Bihar, the NDA alliance with leads in 33. And if you take a look at the TDP's performance in Andhra Pradesh, Chandrababu Naidu is back and is back with a bang. Surjit Bhalla, if the BJP's tally is lower than 272, the possibility of others playing kingmaker, what do you make of that?
No, I think it'll be more cooperative. So, if it is less than 272, the BJP on its own obviously doesn't have a majority, and it'll be more of an alliance. And in that sense, you will get the, if you will, inputs from outside of the BJP, and that cannot be bad, if you will, in any organization, etc. There are advantages to having one party in a dominant state, and you can get several bits of reforms happening, which we saw happen over the last decade. And there are some failings that can happen when you have one dominant party.
Yep.
And that's what we've talked about.
Okay.
So, I honestly don't see much change in economic policy and a more cooperative political policy. Now, here I will disagree, and obviously that's how horse races happen, and that's how politics happen.
Yeah.
On Kashmir, I think, Mr. Garg was pointing out that was a disaster. I happen to think Kashmir is a huge success in terms of the political policy, which could not have been made if it was an alliance situation.
Yeah. No, that point is taken, sir. No, that point is taken. I think the more broader issue that you point out, I don't know if it'll be cooperation, because the BJP had 303 in the outgoing Lok Sabha, and the TDP had 4. The Janata Dal had about 16. Now it's, TDP probably coming back with, 20 seats and the BJP going down to 250.
Yeah.
The tussle between a 303 is to 4 and a 250 is to 20 will be a little different. So chances are the state a better look in.
Yeah.
Because most of these are, state parties.
Yeah. Yeah.
So chances of the states not losing out so much, or
when Shireen used the term kingmaker, it really jolted the memory, right? Because we haven't used that term in, I think, the last 3 elections. But this one is definitely coming out.
Go ahead, Shireen. Do you think states get a better look in?
No, I just want to bring up UP because that picture has changed. Lata, Prashant and Surbi. India Alliance now in the lead, 41 for the India Alliance versus 37 for the NDA. So the picture for UP, since in the last few minutes that we were talking with Dr. Bhalla and Mr. Garg, India Alliance now 41, the NDA at 37, minus 27 seats there versus the 2019 delivery that had gone in favor of the BJP and of the NDA. So this is turning out to be completely and totally unexpected. Forget the polls suggesting anything. I mean, I don't even know if you didn't hear even the opposition talking. I mean, as I said, I heard a lot of healthy double digit, but I don't know if they meant 40 or even anything close to that. But let me just bring back Surjit Bhalla on this. Mr. Bhalla, the UP number. I mean, what do you make of this?
I think, look, first of all, this is a huge surprise, as you said. Whether you look at the exit polls, whether you look at the voting record, whatever you look at. And so one has to now, and I think a lot of pundits will try and examine as to what happened in UP. And as I mentioned earlier, what happened in Rajasthan, which is also, I don't know what the latest numbers there are. So these are the two big surprises in northern India. And this is where the political side, the dog whistling, etc., which a lot of people have commented on, that what are the gains to be made when you're already in a lead position to go ahead and, if you will, make further polarization. So I think that's a fantastic check and balance that will now emerge precisely on the political side again, not economic, on the political side, that I think the BJP overstepped its mandate, overstepped its rhetoric. And I think this is where, people sat back and said, this is not good, and have come in and provided a check. So, and it's interesting, these are the two northern states where, if you will, the Muslim presence is significant rather than small. I don't know what the numbers on Punjab are actually, which is the other area that I would find interesting in this battle.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We'll come back to you, Dr. Bhalla, in just a bit, but I just want to make a look at the market as well. This is a second leg down, sharp leg down. We're down 800 points now on the Nifty. You basically
and taken down by the bank Nifty.
Yeah, you had gotten to a point where the market had recovered about 400 points from the low. Now you're basically back at the day's lowest level once again. So, 840 down. There's a sharp cut. I guess what would have happened is initially there would have been a little bit of disbelief, etc. That this could change. This could as more and more rounds get completed. But I think as the time and the hour has passed, and the numbers are where they are and what they are, and some of these things like UP, etc., are coming through, as Srini has been pointing out. I think that realization is kind of setting in that this is going to be a tough one. I still think we will have to wait for another hour and a half till we get a really settled picture of what the numbers are looking like. But now things are taking a very sharp dive. 900 points down on the Nifty. We are down 22,354 at this point in time. I just want to, Nimish is with us. Nimish, I'm going to come to you, but I just want to bring in Sachin Salgaonkar as well of Bank of America. He tracks telecom and other sectors closely. Look at something like it's not exactly the front and center stock, but idea, right? I mean, telecom tariffs were something which everybody was waiting for, tariff hikes post-elections. Idea is down 10%. Bharti is down 4-5%.
No, I think the U-turn in the last 1 hour has come from PSU banks, Union Bank, just in the last 5 minutes, last 1 hour, is down a further 5%.
The selling has intensified on
intensification is PSU banks and Adani Group of stocks.
Absolutely.
Those are the ones.
That's the high beta that's done the most on the upside. So there's a cut coming here. So it's now approaching 4-digit mark. I mean, almost 950 gone now as far as the Nifty is concerned. Sachin is with us. Sachin, thanks for waiting. Your first thoughts. I mean, you've tracked markets, you've tracked politics, etc., for a long time, more markets than politics, I reckon. But your take on some of these things like potential for tariff hikes, and these are a lot of the things which markets were betting on as dividend of political continuity, which seems to be not in doubt, but it's weaker than what many thought. Your thoughts, Sachin?
No, thank you for the opportunity. See, as a starting point, India telcos is a consumption story. So at some level, it's slightly disconnected from what we are seeing on politics. But you're right from a point of view that for the longest time, the sector was waiting for a tariff hike. And the general thought was that post-elections, we are going to see a tariff hike. I do think that event will still play out. A simple reason for that is all three telcos are okay with the tariff hike. And this is the decision which has largely been taken by the telcos. Of course, the timing and magnitude is something which no one really knows. The general expectation was this will happen immediately post-elections. And let's see, where these things do go out. Our general expectation is it's still around a 15 to 20% hike. Reason being is for the last 2.5 years, we didn't see a tariff hike, and we are at a point where the market is generally okay from a consumption point of view to take that tariff hike along.
Okay, all right. Well, it's still 900 down on the index. Selling intensifying in a lot of PSU names and the Adani names. I mean, some of the stocks like BHEL, etc., they're down in double digits, 10, 11%. Some of them trade in the F&O, so they hit that 10% first circuit, then it flexed, and then there's additional selling after that circuit, down circuit opened up. So there's a lot happening, and it's all on very high volumes as well. Nimesh, you've been working the phones, I'm sure, and it's been quite a roller coaster for most people on their trading desk this morning, right?
Oh, absolutely, sir. It's been extremely volatile in the first 2 hours of trade. But again, what we're seeing right now is just a reversal of what happened yesterday. All the Adani Group stocks, the PSUs were up, 10, 11, 12%, and that's got reversed in the first 2 hours of today's trade. But again, I've been talking to a lot of large HNI investors, and the feedback is this is still early stage, and they'll wait for some more clarity as far as the final outcome is concerned. So there is no panic, so to speak, from the larger investors, at least till what I spoke to half an hour back. Interestingly, from a flow perspective, the early morning trend was that there are buy flows from larger FIs. Interestingly, there is a large basket MOC buying. When I mean MOC buying, it's basically happens in the last 30 minutes of trade, and there is a long list of stocks where there was an MOC buying at a leading FI desk. So need to see whether that gets played out in the last half an hour of trade in today's market. Even apart from MOC buying, there is buying interest from larger FIs, especially in the private bank stocks and some select large cap names. We are seeing some bit of trend in the FMCG names in the first 2 hours of trade. So looks like that's getting played out as far as flows are concerned. Even in terms of select PSU names, largely in the metal names and some large PSU bank stocks, there is a bit of buying interest from the larger institutions. So while there is a bit of knee-jerk reaction to what we're seeing right now as far as the election trends are concerned, but from a flow perspective, there is buying is what I understand. And from larger HNI feedback, it seems like it's a wait and watch for them, and they're still not taking a large call whether to buy or to sell out. But if this trend seems to continue, you will see a bit of further knee-jerk reaction, especially in Adani names as well as the PSU stocks.
Well, yes, that is the Adani Group under pressure, as Nimesh was pointing out. Also, the market's under pressure. But, I just want to go back to that flash that you're seeing on your screens, and that will perhaps explain how and why we have seen things play out so differently from the exit poll. Because let's bring back the vote share picture. As I pointed out at the start of the program, that all exit polls had pretty much given a consensus view as far as vote share for the BJP around 40%. But the best case scenario for the Congress in terms of vote share was a little over 20%. In fact, one poll had said 23%, but it was around 20%. Vote share, if you look at it now, the BJP vote about 39.5%, and the Congress vote share much higher than what the polls were projecting, almost 27%. That is the kind of vote share change that we are seeing versus what the polls were estimating and what the Congress is doing at this point in time. So that perhaps could be an indicator to look out for as to why we have seen this change emerge as far as many of those crucial battleground states are concerned. But speaking of the battleground states, let's bring back UP for you, because again, there, it has gone completely off script for the NDA alliance. It is just neck and neck. The NDA now leading in 40, the India Alliance in 39. So neck and neck there. West Bengal, the TMC clearly in the lead 30, with the BJP leading in 12. And Karnataka is the other one where things have not gone as per what the exit polls were suggesting, where it's about 8 or 9 leads for the Congress at this point in time versus 19. And it was expected to be a clean sweep for the NDA Alliance in Karnataka. Rajasthan and Haryana also, we need to bring those two states up for you to tell you where things stand, because even in Rajasthan, the dynamics, as I was pointing out, and there was speculation on whether the infighting could have cost the BJP, and it looks like that at this point in time. It's 294 now for the NDA, it's 240 for the BJP, it's 227 for the India Alliance, and it's 95 for the Congress. Remember, two individuals to watch out for now who have gone in strong so far as the electoral leads are concerned. Nitish Kumar in Bihar and Chandrababu Naidu at the TDP. So those two individuals will also need to be closely watched, and we will have to see any comments that come in from them. But the tally is changing as we speak. It's 294 for the NDA, 240 for the BJP, 227 for India, and 94 for the Congress. Back to you guys.
You know, Shireen, the other point we need to note is that the BJP's vote share has not fallen much. I mean, they were around 40% in the 2019 election. They remain there. It's just that the non-BJP vote has consolidated under India. And that may also explain why the seat share looks very different from what it was previously.
And at the end of it all, ultimately, it's that seat tally that really, really counts for anyone who's looking at the big picture. Just a reminder, remember, you are getting all of this analysis live coming to you from the from the CNBC TV 18 HDFC Sky election headquarters. Back to Sachin for some perspective. Now, Sachin, right now we're seeing this absolute mayhem play out on a lot of capex stocks, a lot of PSU stocks, PFC, REC, BEL, BHEL, they're all down in double digits. But even if these numbers stabilize where they are, or maybe I'm saying worst case, if they start dipping, irrespective of who's in, would you expect any big change in the focus on, public expenditure, on manufacturing? And therefore, how would you look at these stocks? The only thing that's perhaps working against them is I'm sure, valuations. What are your thoughts on this now?
Yeah, I just want to flag that I'm the telcos media from the telcos perspective. So at least from the telcos, most of the 5G capex is largely behind. You do have a bit of a catch-up capex. So from that perspective, we in fact actually see free cash flow improving for all these entities. Of course, the magnitude of tariff hike is lower, then the free cash flow improvement may not be as high. From a valuation perspective, these stocks are not as expensive, so there is still some room to catch up out here.
Okay. But Sachin, don't you even look at infrastructure stocks? If you do, then do you think that the bet on infra will be brought down a bit?
Sorry, I don't look at infrastructure.
Okay, all right. It's just, one of those sectors that were played up in the run-up to the counting day. Expectation that the capex, which has been very good, one of the strong points of the outgoing government, 3.3% of GDP, 10 trillion rupees. It was a fantastic investment in capex. Much of it went into construction, not so much into machinery, and therefore, of course, infrastructure was expected to get a leg up.
Look at the wicks at the bottom of the screen.
Exactly.
I mean, you don't see this. It's actually, we've not seen this as the flash says at these levels for many years. It's the single largest gain in 9 years, and it's understandable with the kind of reaction that we are seeing. It's a full 1,000-point sell-off now, which means that in the last 45 minutes, the market, after having consolidated with a 500-point cut, has added on another 500, piled on another 500 on the downside. So this is the shock which is coming through.
Nifty down 1,000. That four-figure number itself is a bit rattling.
Names like SBI are down 10, locked down 10%, right? SBI went up 10% yesterday. It's fully given back all of it.
The Adani Group is down 13,
of course,
14 to 18%, depending on which stock you pick.
Absolutely. I mean, they're all down 10, 14%.
Yesterday's gains or last
Look at
2-3
defense.
days gains.
Actually, we should put some of these names up. These are all circuit lower, circuit down. If you can follow me, HAL is down 10%. That's a circuit limit, right? 4746. Look at BEL, that is Bharat Electronics. That's down 15%. It's circuit lower.
Even BHEL.
Look at BHEL, REC, 15% down. The circuit down. IRFC is down 10%, circuit lower. PFC is down 15%. It's a circuit lower. There is GAIL, which went up 10%, 12% yesterday. It's down 10% right now. Canara Bank is down 10%. You mentioned BHEL, which is down 14%. These are large cuts. NTPC is down a full 10%, went up 10%. I mean, so, for some of these, it's just reversals from yesterday, but it tells you the ferocity of the move. IRDA, IRDA is down 13%. Huge, humongous volumes in all these names. PNB is down 10.
Even big stocks, ONGC, Punjab National Bank, all down 10% and on circuit.
Power Grid is down 10%, Lata. SJV, and as you would notice, most of these are from the PSU space. Cochin Shipyard down 10, Mazgaon down 16. right? Mazgaon down 16%, Hudco down 13-14%, SAIL down 10%, and of course, as you said, ONGC down 10% as well. This is, just some of the largest volume-led losers, and they're all mostly, I think 80-85% of the list that I read out is all in the PSU space.
No, absolutely.
Let me just get Mr. Bhalla in for a minute on...
Just a point on the massive extent of PSU selling that we're getting. I think right now it's that phase of book profits and get out of the door quickly enough, because these are stocks that have moved up. Or Cochin Shipyard up about 700%, HAL up about 300-400%. So that's what's going on. But beyond PSUs, I'm trying to see what is happening in the rest of the market as well. And the issue is, look at the Bank Nifty. PSU selling, one, of course, understands. But the Bank Nifty has its own issues. Look at Reliance. Reliance Industries is down 7%. That's the extent of the impact of the numbers that we're seeing on the screen as of now. Look at an IndusInd Bank down 9%, ICICI Bank down 5.5%, HDFC Bank down 5%, Bharti Airtel down 7%. This is not just about sell PSU, shift your portfolio, buy something else in this market. This right now is a complete rejig. It's a complete let's get back down to the drawing board sort of a situation. Take the money off. And that's 1,200 points down on the Nifty on the verge of breaking the 22,000 mark. Indeed, this is a massive day. And for the time being, it's a massive day on the way down.
In days of yore, we used to say London opening. At about 12 o'clock, we would always expect some serious changes. And that would mean the FI's desks are opening. Maybe that's the trend we are getting. It's only 11. So, the accelerated selling has come even before noon. So quite clearly, a lot of trading activity and people taking money off the desk at any price seems to be the mood at this point in time. Shireen, you have more?
No, Lata, I was just saying that the reason perhaps why we're seeing this accelerated selling coming in is because the numbers are changing on the election ticker. So it's not 91 for the India Alliance and it's 97 for the Congress, and the numbers have changed significantly in the last few minutes, even as far as UP is concerned. So if we bring UP back up, the India Alliance now leading in 43, the NDA in 36. So that is the story that has changed again in the last few minutes in terms of leads. But again, we want to caveat that many leads we're given to understand very slim margins on many seats at this point in time. But perhaps the reason why you're seeing this accelerated pressure and sell-off in the market is because the election ticker has now shown you the NDA at 289, the BJP at 234, and the India Alliance at 232. So it is going to be important to see how the political dynamics change, Lata, and Prashant and Surabhi, if we are not in a situation of the BJP getting majority on its own. So we will have to now start to factor in those scenarios as well. It wasn't a scenario at all that anyone was considering up until now, but I would imagine that if this holds, then those will have to be scenarios that we will need to start factoring in.
Shireen, forget about the BJP. The NDA is now holding on to the majority just by the skin of its teeth.
289.
I mean, 289 is only a small distance away from the 273 mark. So, 275 mark. So we have to really watch out. Of course, it still looks like it will romp home if the trends continue, but it will be a very different color to the government, the confidence to the government. And my own sense is that the center-state equation is going to take a definite change. The extent of centralization we saw in the past 5 years or past 10 years is perhaps likely to slow down a bit because parties like the Telugu Desam, the TDP, parties like the Janata Dal will have a slightly bigger voice even within the NDA, and therefore walking away with state powers into the center will perhaps have to slow down. We have more guests joining us now, and we have to concentrate on the market because they're seeing serious losses, especially in the Bank Nifty. So we have invited Suresh Ganpati, the Managing Director and banking expert at Macquarie. They're also going to be joined by Nilesh Shah, the head of Kotak AMC. Gentlemen, thank you very much indeed for your time. First to you, Nilesh, there seems to be a serious taking off of money from the market. It's not just infrastructure stocks and PSU stocks that are going, but even unrelated stocks are beginning to see taking away of money. What's the mood in the market?
Undoubtedly, market is, on the way up because of exit poll. And now the actual results are way below what exit polls were indicating. And that's why there is a correction in the market. Investors are looking forward to the actual results. Markets had factored in continuity of government and policy push towards accelerated growth. With this kind of result, people will wait on the margin to see what kind of formation happens.
Gentlemen, so yeah, I mean, we got to start to think about that kind of stuff, right? I mean, what kind of formations and whether, because as Lata was pointing out, I mean, it's not just the BJP, the NDA itself is now under the 289, 288 or so. Suresh Ganpati is also with us. Prashant here, Nilesh Bhai and Suresh. Suresh, what does this mean? I mean, there is, there was people who were expecting a dividend because of political continuity, and that may still be there. But these numbers broadly, as an equity analyst and then as a bank analyst.
Yeah, look, I think, Prashant, it's back to basics, right? I think some of the multiples were just getting expanded and re-rated without any substance. So just to give you an example, SBI just cannot structurally cross an ROE of 1.1%. So on what basis the markets were giving high multiples to SBI beats me. The RBI's annual report talks about a whole lot of important regulations, be it ECL norms or be it project finance norms coming through. The market were giving complete scant regard to any of those regulatory, changes which are expected, which is definitely going to affect the PSU banks more than the privates. So my point here is, at the end of the day, what matters is earnings, what matters is ROA, and what matters is ROE. So it will be back to basics, and that's where I think the reality will kick in, and some of these names will I've seen the selling and will continue to see the selling going forward.
Absolutely. Yep, Shireen, any further updates?
No, just wanted to give some more market internals, Lata, and back to the UP picture, because it is moving now, trending in favor more so for the India Alliance. 43 now for the India Alliance, 36 for the NDA. That's the picture that's playing out in UP. Smriti Ilani, I was just taking a look at the latest numbers. They're trailing by about 27,000 votes. Kishori Lal Sharma of the Congress, old Congress hand, a local of a leader, giving her a fight there in the battleground of Amethi. Mahua Moitra, by the way, the TMC has edged edged higher in West Bengal. It's upped its leads in West Bengal, and Mahua Moitra now leading. The TMC is leading in 32 seats, including the seat for Mahua Moitra. Krishnanagar is where Mahua Moitra is also leading at this point in time. It is now 230 for the India Alliance, 293 for the BJP, down 60, and it is up 111 for the India Alliance at this point in time. Again, back to the vote share numbers, just under 40% for the BJP and just under 27% as far as the Congress is concerned. West Bengal, as I pointed out, 32 now, leads coming in for the TMC, and Karnataka, the NDA leading in 18, the Congress leading in 10. So, many of those big battleground states are going contrary to what the exit polls were indicating, what the exit polls were predicting. It's 238 now for the BJP. We are going to have to start to monitor Chandrababu Naidu, Nitish
Shireen,
Kumar.
can you read out Maharashtra as well? I think Maharashtra also is a big battleground state.
Yeah, Maharashtra is a big battleground state, and the last I had checked, the Maharashtra leads India leading in 25, the NDA leading in 22. So still close, but India has the advantage, leading in 25 seats as of now. Look at Haryana. The expectation again was that the BJP would do a slam dunk in Haryana, but you're seeing the picture change there as well, with the India Alliance leading versus the NDA in Haryana as well. It's 294 now for the NDA, 238 for the BJP, 228 for India, and 93 for the Congress. Those are some of the NDA allies on your screens as well. The TDP at 15, the JDU at 15 as well. So they've delivered their numbers.
Sure, got that, Shireen. Thanks for that. I mean, it's
two states that sent the largest number of parliamentarians to Lok Sabha are Uttar Pradesh and Maharashtra.
Absolutely.
And in both those, I think there have been very severe reversals.
Maharashtra was a complicated election. Maharashtra was a complicated election because it was, two Shiv Senas and two old and new.
No, you're right that Maharashtra was the known devil.
Yeah,
UP has turned out to be the unknown devil for...
Absolutely. So, I mean, the top tally on our screens is still reading around 298 thereabouts for the NDA combined. Nilesh, the market's now sort of pricing all this in right now with about a 1,200 point fall. Now, we have to work with scenarios till we get to the absolutes, right? So if we work with a scenario where the NDA is still managing between 290 to about 300, then how do you expect the next couple of days to play out? Is this like, a knee-jerk COVID kind of you do a knee-jerk reaction and then you kind of move on and then sort of get back to usual? Or is the market going to take time to really read between the lines in this verdict? What happens, I mean, tomorrow onwards? I'm working with scenario 1 right now, which is NDA roughly around 300.
So a lot will depend upon how things evolve. What markets would like is essentially corporate earnings growth, which in some sense is linked to GDP growth. Our markets are also trading at a premium valuation over other emerging market peers because of political stability. So there could be some amount of derating if there is no political stability. Policy decisions will make a material impact. Now, can one say that this result is indicating the subdued consumption? We have seen our GDP growth driven by public investment and trade far more than consumption and private investment. Now, if there are steps taken to boost consumption, then certainly consumer stocks will do well. If steps are taken to boost infrastructure investments, then infrastructure and capital goods will do well. So one is the valuation of India, which is kind of linked to political stability and continuity. And second is the policy steps taken by the government, which can influence certain part of the market.
Very well put, Nilesh. A lot of clarity in how we have to think. Overall valuations can also see a bit of cooling off because of the political stability premium going off a little, and specific sectors like defense or infrastructure or power likely to get a bit of a beating, and public sector banks, let's not forget. Suresh, you spoke to us about how the public sector banks, some of them were really trading at very high valuations given their historical ROA. But do you think that this makes the private sector banks get a look in? We didn't see too much of attention being paid to the Kotaks and the HDFCs and the ICICIs in the run-up to the election, especially the counting. Do you think they get a look in now?
Yeah, definitely. I think the narrative over the course of last couple of years were to move more towards the PSUs because they were better in terms of liquidity conditions and LDR ratios. And of course, the sentiment was very strong. I mean, now the focus will shift back to the private sector banks in our view because of the fact that they are still reporting pretty stable, I would say, earnings growth and ROE. The ROEs of the private sector banks across the board is 16 to 18%. In fact, interestingly, Lata, if you look at it, the gap between the PSUs and the private sector bank valuations before today's, of course, changes was the lowest seen in the history. That's partly got to do with, of course, stocks like HDFC and Kotak not doing well and stocks like SBI having done pretty well. But now, if you were to really look at the outlook going forward, purely in terms of earnings growth, ROE trajectory, and more so even the balance sheet buffers and contingencies that the private sector banks carry. Remember that, as I said, some of these ECL regulations are expected to come as per RBI's own admission, and the PSU banks don't carry any buffer. So the focus will now again go back to what kind of ROA, ROE, credit costs you're going to report, rather than just re-rating on the back of a narrative or a story out there, right? So yeah, that's how we look at the focus back towards, let's put it this way, the defensives, which would be the private sector banks at this point in time.
Yeah,
Okay,
I
Suresh,
guess stocks for times when things are going haywire. Suresh, thank you very much for that point of view. Really appreciate you being with us on this busy, all-important morning. I just wanted to point out here that the extent of selling is such that a lot of these PSU stocks, which are also in the F&O market, the first circuit hit at 10, then there was a bit of a freeze, then there was a flex, then it moved to 15, again a freeze, flex, and now many of these stocks are almost 20% on the lower side. I mean, look at REC, PFC, HUDCO, BEL, BHEL. BHEL is down 17% right now. GAIL is down almost 15%. Bank of Baroda. I guess we're also, dealing with a market which was absolutely, a lock, stock and barrel in these stocks.
Yeah.
So,
Nilesh, actually on that, Nilesh, you touched on a point that a BJP with 235, 240, at the moment, I believe it's around 235, will have less negotiating power within the NDA itself. You touched on that point. Do you think that seriously takes down valuations for India, because the existing stability also will be seen as less stable than what the 293 makes it out to be?
Undoubtedly, the first reaction of investor will be that if there is a coalition government versus one-party government, the policy making will get influenced by coalition politics. Then the focus will be on actual delivery. If they see that the policy reforms are continuing in the right direction, then the re-rating can happen. But the initial reaction of investor will be that compared to one-party majority versus coalition politics, there will be push and pull, and economics will probably take a little bit of backseat vis-a-vis politics. There will be focus more on boosting consumption than, let's say, infrastructure investment.
But maybe that's not such a bad thing, Nilesh, at least for that part of the market. I know it's not the heaviest weight, consumer stocks, but if there are indeed steps taken to boost consumption at the bottom of the pyramid, would that necessarily, and maybe, not without letting the fist completely run away, would a boost in consumption necessarily be bad?
And let me tag in one more question, quite different. What kind of lows are you seeing for the market, Nilesh? Does it go below 22,000? Should we be prepared for a slightly bigger cut than we were?
So let me answer easier part. It's very, very difficult to estimate where is the top or the bottom in a day like today. A lot will depend upon how the actual results pan out. And boosting consumption at the bottom end obviously is not wrong. It's appropriate. However, how it is funded is also critical. If it is funded through, let's say, increased dividend from RBI, which has been already announced, then certainly it's a step in the right direction. So a lot will depend upon how policies evolve. I do believe that while there is a potential derating of Indian market because of political stability, the other fundamentals continue to remain in good stake. Our market cap to GDP ratio is well above averages, but profit to GDP ratio is also well above averages, and debt to GDP ratio or listed companies leverage is well below historical averages. Valuations are fairly priced, but it's not extremely expensive, bearing low floating stock counters. So at some point of time, fundamentals will prevail and create a bottom, but where that bottom is, today it's difficult to predict.
There's a lot of numbers on debt and profit to GDP, profit to market cap and market cap to GDP. What about earnings per share itself? EPS for Nifty was 1,000 rupees for the current year, right? So what do we go with in terms of
FY24 EPS?
Yeah, go ahead, please.
So FY24 EPS actually came 3% ahead of expectation at the beginning of the year. This is one of the very rare year where analysts had to upgrade the Nifty earning per share. And largely it was driven by financial services sector. There were obviously sectors like IT and chemical where profit growths were well below expectation. FY25 market is expecting about 1145, 1150 kind of Nifty 50 EPS. And again, it will be a broad-based earnings growth. So from a valuation point of view, we are reasonably comfortable. We do trade at a premium to others, but many of our peers are stuck in their own domestic problems. Russia is stuck in Ukraine, Brazil has a communist government, South Africa is going into coalition politics, China has real estate challenge, and Taiwan. So in some sense, we are also getting a premium because others are not doing well.
Right, just a quick point on, I don't know if you guys talked about PSUs with,
Yeah, we did to some extent. But go ahead.
Any thoughts on, stocks are circuit down. Again, many of them had low floating sort of stock. Not many, but a few had. But broadly, what's your sense here? This was also, of course, the best way to express a view in terms of continued sort of reform momentum or whatever. But and now they're, of course, all going on the other side with some ferocity. Where do they settle?
So Prashant bhai, we were talking about how concentrated holding or low floating stock in PSUs and other counters is resulting into valuation way ahead of fundamentals. And we did expect that if there was a capital raise in those counters, the discount could be as high as 25 to 30 to 50% also. Now, when you trade at that kind of valuation and there is a disappointment, undoubtedly corrections will happen, and corrections will be swift and severe. Again, it's very, very difficult to predict where the bottom for the PSU stocks will be. But again, when correction happens in a market like today, the good, bad, and ugly all gets hammered. This will be an opportunity to pick up those PSUs where floating stock is reasonably high, price discovery is more market driven than thanks to the low floating stock or concentrated holding. And you will see a bottoming out process happening in fairly valued PSUs fairly early compared to, let's say, low floating stock counters.
That Nilesh has been cautious for the last 6 months, at least.
Yes.
And he's been has been saying valuations are high, but I don't think. And correct me if I'm wrong, Nilesh, you don't think you would not have imagined that the risk would come from this? I mean, the final the correction would happen because of this.
That's what they say, right? The real risk is the one that you don't know.
It's
the unknown.
No, actually, not just Kotak AMC in the form of Nilesh Shah, but Kotak Securities, quite a different wing, also were cautioning. And I remember some of the stock market anchors almost jeering, saying that why are they so cautious? Everybody else was much more gung-ho. And this is as recently as yesterday. I heard some stock anchors poking fun at the Kotak Securities. But now that caution is actually well received.
Absolutely. Sanjeev Prasad has been extremely cautious in a lot of the notes that Kotak Institutional
Especially
Equities puts
mid-caps.
out. Absolutely. So, yeah, I remember the Mad Caps report. But anyway, different arm, completely different from the AMC. But Nilesh, to come back to the point that you just made on, a lot of other emerging markets having their own problems. So I'm going to put a question to you, which actually should be put to, your peers on the foreign buy desks. But I'm sure you talk to them anyway. So let me get your sense on this. Now, this FPI buying has been missing for a long time in this market this year. You folks have been sort of picking it up. Now, if we get this sort of a result, what do you think? I mean, if you could, step into the shoes of a foreign fund manager for just a second, is this 1,000-point dip, which is presenting a great opportunity to finally enter India at better levels? Or is this a moment in time where things become a little more unclear?
So we did see some amount of foreign short covering yesterday on exit poll. Today, obviously, things have changed. And if we see their behavior, it was kind of 1 month of buying, 2 months of selling, 2 months of buying, 1 month of selling. Yes, in the financial year, April and May, they have been net sellers. But otherwise, whenever they got an opportunity, they have participated in block selling by some of the multinational companies, some of the IPOs. My feeling is that global investor, just like domestic investor, will keep on evaluating opportunities. And as long as our fundamental story remains intact, there will be a buyer on correction. Does not necessarily mean today, but certainly they'll be looking to add to India over a longer period of time.
Fair point. Just a number, Nilesh. At the moment, if I go with what, 11,145, you said? 1,100, 1145 is the Nifty EPS for FY25. In that case, we are still like almost 20 times. Do you think that, what is the long-term average? Does it go to 18 times, 19 times?
So Lata, we are already in the month of June. So in some sense, we are looking at a earning 10-month forward and not 12-month forward. Now, on a day like today, it's difficult to, make those kind of adjustments. But my feeling is that over the next 6 months, we will be transiting to FY26 earning. which will be more towards 1250, 1300 times. And that we will be somewhere around 18 and a half times. That's somewhere around historical averages. So we will see some amount of consolidation, which we had been saying some times ago. And as Prashant mentioned, for 5 months and 29 days, we were wrong on low floating stock PSUs. But finally, your conviction pays off.
Well, Nilesh, we will come back to you when we do have a decisive verdict one way or the other, when we have clarity, because we're still going with what the leads are indicating. But many thanks, as always, for joining us today on a very important day for politics in this country and, of course, for the markets as well. And we will come back to you in a short while from now. But here's the latest tally, 296 for the NDA. The India Alliance continues to lead in UP now at 42. That is the latest number coming in there. While the numbers on your screens are changing, whether it's the markets or it's the election ticker, there has been one constant here on CNBC TV 18 through the course, not just of the last 44 days, but even for periods before that. And I think I call him our Sachin Tendulkar and Rahul Dravid combined, but Parikshit Luthra has really been driving the election coverage here on CNBC TV 18 and doing a stellar job of keeping us up to date with what's happening. And he's standing by on the magic wall, Parikshit, to take us through some of those big contests. Who's ahead?
Well, the results are changing very fast, and they've surprised the stock markets and surprised everyone, including pollsters. 239 for the BJP as of now, Shireen. So way back in 2019, this was at 303. Congress at 95. In 2019, they were at 52. So big jump there for the Congress party. Big fall in numbers for the BJP. The Samajwadi Party in Uttar Pradesh is turning out to be a giant killer. Look at the numbers in Uttar Pradesh. Samajwadi Party, the big gainer right now, and the India Alliance actually ahead, majorly because of the Samajwadi Party. And the NDA's numbers are at 37, down 27 from last time around. So clearly something is happening on the ground in Uttar Pradesh. Let's look at some of the VIP constituencies. Constituency number 36. You've got Rahul Gandhi winning with a comfortable margin against Dinesh Pratap Singh. In the next door constituency, that is Amethi, Smriti Irani seems to be tailing, and Kishori Lal Sharma seems to be very comfortable with over 20,000 votes as of now. In Sultanpur, that is the constituency of Maneka Gandhi from the BJP, she's trailing, and the Samajwadi Party leader Rambual Nishad is gaining ground. So clearly something has worked in terms of caste equations for the Samajwadi Party on the ground. So they could be very decisive in government formation in case any bloc falls short of the majority mark. As of now, the BJP not forming majority on its own, but still, it will be an hour or so before things become really clear. I'd also like to quickly take a look at West Bengal, where it seems that Mamata Banerjee has managed to save a lot of ground, save her bastions. TMC leading on 30 seats, the BJP just 11. If these numbers hold true in a few hours from now, then it would be a loss for the BJP. Let's also look at the state of Bihar. Very crucially, yes, the NDA is doing better, but the ones who are actually leading the way from them is the JDU. This green, all these green seats that you see are JDU doing well for the BJP. So very important to see what will happen with the JDU going forward. Let's also look at Maharashtra, where we had seen a lot of fragmentation. We see the NDA's tally coming down very significantly, down 18 seats compared to last time. The India Alliance gaining 18. So it seems that the breaking of the Shiv Sena alliance, the breaking of the NCP has somehow benefited the India Alliance. Even though the likes of Supriya Sule were trailing from Baramati, overall the India Alliance seems to be gaining. So where all is the BJP actually picking up? Well, in Telangana, sometime back, the BJP was in the lead, but now it's almost neck to neck with the Congress benefiting from the fall in the BRS, and even in states like Rajasthan, for that matter. Rajasthan has been a big setback for the BJP. They tried to change a lot of things. They tried to replace at least 11 MPs. In fact, in this Lok Sabha election, more than 102 MPs have been replaced by the BJP, and the India Alliance winning at least 12 seats as of now, the BJP at 13. So it seems that the Congress has really improved and done a lot of groundwork, which seems to be paying off. So the national picture at this juncture, not looking very good, but these are early leads. NDA comfortably in the lead, but will the BJP get the majority mark on its own is something that a lot of experts are asking. Back to you.
Taken, Parikshit, at 239, it definitely looks like a very big ask to get anywhere near the majority tally. And that makes Naidu and Nitish Kumar kingmakers. I mean, if 15 and 15 of those, I think it's 20 for TDP at this point in time, if they were to switch to NDA, as some people in the market are very scared about, switch to India, then actually they become kingmakers. Of course, that's perhaps wildly speculating, but for the market, it means money that is at stake. So there are all kinds of wild speculations.
We've recovered a little
happening.
bit, because, this is, a lot of it is, of course, immediate reaction, positioning, etc. But from the lows, the market has recovered about 300 points. But there's
but no recovery, Prashant, in the fixed income and forex market. People were looking at 82.75 for the rupee.
Yeah.
It is actually now at 83.50.
Yeah.
Yesterday, for a brief period, the rupee became cheaper than 83. You required less than 83 rupees to buy the dollar. But now the dollar is 83.50.
Because I guess even the money
Likewise in
markets,
bonds, 7.12.
Yeah. I guess even in the money markets, that big hope was that, I mean, apart from the dividend and what will happen and a great budget expectation for July, the hope that more foreign money will come. Yesterday's money buying, FPI buying was over 6,800 crores. Now, will we see more of that in the near term? I mean, will they come in and buy this dip? These are questions which are out there. But what's happening right now is that the money is coming in selectively in defensive stocks. That hasn't changed. It's still, Lever is now surging almost 5% higher. Sun Pharma, Britannia, Cipla. It's still most of these, because on the other side of the screen, your Adani Group stocks, likes of Coal India, still down 13, Power Grid, SBI is still down about 11%. Yes, it was down almost 15% at one point. But that's still a double-digit cut. What Horma's also just confirmed, I was just checking with our team at the back end, this is the biggest fall that the market has seen since COVID. I mean, this kind of a 4-digit decline is not what we've seen in the last 4 years. And Prashant, I think that's something that on mind as well, whether it gets bought or whether this is more long drawn out. And then you get into a bit of a range and then you have to navigate this differently.
I think, maybe it's too early to say what will happen, but I think it won't be if these numbers hold, I don't think it'll be a COVID style V-shaped recovery. Because that was, you basically wanted two things. You wanted a vaccine, which came in November of that year, and you wanted a stimulus, big stimulus, right? Big bazooka. I think this is that. I mean, this is...
I take your point. See, COVID at that point in the March of 2020, we worried, we were not sure how long it will last. And there was a genuine fear that, if there is a lockdown for 3 months, 6 months, we don't know, economic activity will be completely decimated. So we saw the Nifty going, to 7,000. It was a very big fall. We are not anywhere in that
but
picture.
the pole vault. The pole vault was very dramatic in COVID. And what we're discussing is whether the recovery, and eventually even the market moves on, whether the recovery is going to be as quick and swift or not.
Since this is more an evolutionary situation, perhaps it's not that V-shaped, but let's wait and see. Much will depend on the numbers. We have to take a break. Haven't done that in a bit. Coming back with more experts. I think this time we will have more political experts joining us.
and to start to opt out because you feel that societal pressure. And so we have to invest in things like a care economy. We have to invest in things where we're helping each other understand that challenge. And I agree with you more. It's not about balance. It's like certain stages and certain phases in your life. You'll prioritize kids when you have to. You'll prioritize work when you have to. I just have to say, I'm really sad that I had three boys, have three boys, I should say, and they're teenage boys. And so when I hear all of you talking about daughters, I'm like, you're so lucky. But I think there's a role for us as moms of sons to actually raise feminist boys who actually end up being with, or hopefully a partner who, breaks some of these norms.
Where do you see the House of Masaba over the next 5 years?
The next 5 years, wow, I hope there's no other wave of something that we didn't see coming like it did. But, well, definitely we will have a much stronger retail footprint across India and globally. We're currently at about 17 stores across India. The plan is to go to about 35 to
Welcome back. You are tuned to CNBC TV 18 HDFC Sky's election headquarters for the big verdict today. The verdict has been quite different from what the exit polls led us to expect. The NDA at only 292 now, still in with the majority, but the BJP at 238. So the big question we should be wondering is whether the NDA allies stay together with the BJP, which now has a much lower clout, does not have a majority in its own right. Joining us to answer those questions and more, senior journalist Sanjeev Srivastava and Ninad Sheth, also a senior journalist and political analyst. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining us. Sanjeev, let me come to you first. It looks at the moment, of course, that the NDA is in with about 290 plus seats. It's a very moving picture at this point in time. It appears that between 290 and 300 will be the NDA's tally, but the BJP is down less than 240 at this point in time, probably 238 when I last saw. Do you think there is a problem of stability? Do you think some of the NDA allies like the TDP and the Janata Dal, which see themselves, the JDU, which see themselves as kingmakers, could jump ship?
See, the truthful answer, Lata, is that nobody knows what will the NDA allies do. But going by their track record, especially track record of someone like every year on his every birthday he has a new fellow partner. So what will he do? He has had a long-running problem with Prime Minister Modi. Remember, before 2014, they were like daggers drawn. And then circumstances make stranger bedfellows. So they have come together, come together. Now what he does next is anybody's guess. Same is the question with, there are not many other allies really who may stick or not stick with them. JDS is inconsequential. They have 2 or 3 MPs. I'm surprised with the manner in which the BJP's number has gone down. I was expecting it to be nowhere near the exit polls, and we spoke earlier about this. But for them to capitulate by in this manner, if they were 10, 20 seats plus from here, things would have been relatively more stable. But now everything is up in the air. I'm told the UP election counting is going real slow.
Yep.
So that may also change some equations, and that maybe what the BJP will be hoping for is a best case scenario. But the entire, one thing is certain, the jalwa or the oomph or the swagger of 2014 and 19 is well behind the present leadership.
Now, I take your point on both issues. We are absolutely jumping the gun if we think that the leads will be converted into final seats, because even in the course of the last 3-4 hours, we have seen things, zigzag a goodish bit. But over to you, Ekta and Rima. Your thoughts first, Rima. The market's absolutely taken a U-turn.
Oh, absolutely.
From yesterday.
Yeah, and we're once again down to nearly the day's low, so 22,153. Let's continue with our discussion with our guests. Ninad Sheth, senior journalist, is also with us. Ninad, afternoon. Do you think it's a real possibility that Congress may, lay claim to form a government, the India Alliance plus others throw in a Nitish Kumar, and there is a possibility that Congress makes a claim to form a government this time?
I think everything depends. The template to see right now is not the respective alliances. The pitch has turned dramatically. It all depends on the single party majority point of BJP. I think for the market, it's very important that BJP comes as a single party, because otherwise there's a dramatic change. We were expecting that if the BJP comes back, then all the infrastructure spending which the government has been, shouldering will be now complemented by private sector spending. That will radically shift if Congress comes, because Congress's promises are welfareistic. So not only will the infrastructure spending and all the other spending, expenditure of government shift, it will shift not from productive assets to welfareism. And that will, have a very long-term negative impact on the market. To my mind, the key figure of the third consecutive single-party majority is the defining question. I think if that happens, then BJP has enough, what is called Sam Dam Dand Bhed to go on and have 5 years. But with majority not being there, single-party majority, I think everything changes, and it is very difficult, therefore, then to predict the policy outcome as well as the government outcome in the very short run.
Yeah, I think we would be in the realm of speculation if we talk about policy certainty and continuation until we know what that number is for the BJP, currently at 238. But if the BJP by itself falls short of majority, what will the dynamics be within the alliance itself with alliance partners? That's the big question. But let me get Sanjeev back into the conversation. Sanjeev, great to have you here on CNBC TV 18. Sanjeev, let's talk about these three battleground states. And I'll start by asking you about Rajasthan, which is your home state in many ways. What's going on there? I mean, the polls made it very, very clear that it would be the BJP all the way, and it hasn't turned as per script.
So, Shireen, I seldom get these occasions when I gloat a little. Usually, I always have egg on my face. But this time, on 19th April, when the first phase of voting was happening, I said that Rajasthan is likely to be 18-7 in favor of BJP on your show. And then I think the last time we spoke on CNBC was on 13th, when the day Maharashtra was voting. And then I said the BJP is likely to get less than 270. And I think we had the same fellow panelists here who asked me to travel a little more. So the thing is that if the BJP on its own gets 250 or north of 250, I think the government structure will more or less be the same. That can be taken for granted. Prime Minister same, top leadership same, NDA government, of course, BJP not getting a clear majority, but broad contours and structure of the government remains the same. But if it is reduced to what the number is, if the trend right now of 238, 240 gets confirmed, then really a lot of things go up in the air. Where do the allies go? Where does a Nitish Kumar who just changes parties every season? Where does he go? Where do other allies go? And what about, if at all, there are some rumblings which begin within the BJP? So then a lot of possibilities get thrown up. I really don't have the answers. I don't also have any inside track of what may be happening there. But these are very obvious possibilities.
Yes, those are possibilities that will come into play if, as you point out, that number for the BJP is less than 250 at this point in time, tracking 238. Sandeep, speaking of travel, I know that you did travel, not the length and breadth of the country, but a fair amount to gauge the mood. How do you explain what we are seeing happen in UP, for instance? 42 now in favor of the India alliance, the NDA leading in 36. I mean, this was UP where, again, the polls predicted that it would be a slam dunk in favor of the BJP, especially coming on the back of the Ram Mandir, etc. What would you put down as reasons or factors, besides, of course, the fact that perhaps we've seen a consolidation of votes, and we don't know whether the BSP votes have gone to the SP or not. But, what would you put down as what has happened in UP?
So, Shireen, I would have expected the result in Maharashtra and Rajasthan, some other states, but UP has also left me stumped. For one, we didn't travel to UP. But from what I am gathering now, a couple of things really happened. One, Akhilesh Yadav, who is the senior partner of the alliance in Uttar Pradesh, opposition alliance, his party was largely seen as a Muslim Yadav party. But this time, very smartly, he gave just 5 Yadavs tickets out of his quota and just 4 Muslims. The rest of the tickets he gave based on a very smart social engineering to other castes, Dalits, Kurmis, Kushwahas, Rajbhats. So that umbrella and that spread of the net of the opposition alliance became wider with these smaller castes joining in this opposition alliance. The other thing which I think played out was some bit of Rajput anger, because remember what Arvind Kejriwal said in his press conference soon after coming out of jail on bail, that Prime Minister won't stay Prime Minister after 75. He's asking vote for Amit Shah, and Yogi will be sacked within 2 months. So now the BJP was very categorical in denying the first thing, that the Prime Minister is going to stay. But there was radio silence on Arvind Kejriwal's statement about Yogi Adityanath, which may have unnerved Yogi himself or his supporters. And so really, what has happened in UP has left me quite stumped, because it was a state where the BJP was doing well, law and order was good, Yogi and Modi double engine on the face of it looked very formidable. But the result and the trends, if they stay this way, then that will be the turning point of the game changer of this election.
Yes, speaking of game-changing elections, it is clearly turning out to be one, completely, as I've been pointing out, unexpected, what the numbers are indicating, at least in some of those crucial battleground states. And we haven't looked at Maharashtra. Let's bring Maharashtra back up, because remember, you've seen a split of the NCP, you've seen a split of the Shiv Sena, there is the Congress and there is the BJP. So most pollsters yesterday were talking about how Maharashtra would be the hardest state to call. And in fact, what you're seeing happen in UP has left everyone with their jaws touching the floor at this point in time. The India Alliance in Maharashtra, 28 seats in which the India Alliance is leading, 18 for the BJP. So that is the latest, as far as 19 now for the NDA in Maharashtra. And it's going to be important. This is also a prestige battle. It's a prestige battle for Sharad Pawar and Supriya Sule of the erstwhile NCP, the original NCP. It's a battle for Uddhav Thackeray, trying to reclaim the legacy of his father, Balasaheb Thackeray. And I would imagine that there's a lot of bruised egos involved as well. 290 for the NDA, 237 for the BJP, 232 for the India Alliance. The Congress now edging closer to 95. Will it cross the 100 mark is the question that we have to watch for the Congress party in specific. It could change the nature of the game for Rahul Gandhi as well. Quick take on the markets, guys, before we head into a break.
bad for the markets, Shireen. It's, I think, at the lowest point of the day, 5.5% down. Navneet Munot of HDFC AMC is with us. And Navneet, you perhaps have not seen the screen for the last 5 minutes. And 5 minutes is a long time in the markets. 1,250 down on the Nifty as I speak. 22,000 is about to be given away. It's 22,009 as I speak. 8, 22,003, 22,001. And I think 22,000 has just about saved itself for the moment. Your sense, Navneet, I mean, if for the next few days, do you think the market is going to plumb lower depths? How would FIIs think about the market since a given 5-year stability seems under the cloud?
I mean, we're talking about 294 seats, right? I mean, if I see the screen, 290 or whatever, between 1989 and 2014, no party had majority. In fact, between 1999 and 2004, the first NDA had a substantially lower seat than what it is today, right? During that period, Sensex has gone up from 750 to 25,000 between 1989 and 2014, 33 times increase in Sensex. I think we are overplaying this. Of course, market has gone up. 22,000 looks like market has fallen substantially. The fact is, few days back, we celebrated that. Now we have hit 22,000. Yeah. It is an all-time high. We celebrated 20,000 for the first time in our history just few weeks back. So market has gone up quite a bit. I think the comfort on the valuations was very limited, while all the macro parameters look very good, whether the GDP, inflation, external sector, corporate balance sheet, fiscal consolidation on every aspect. But it's just that valuations did not leave any margin of error. Any negative news flow, which market thinks is negative, had to have this impression. And of course, we shouldn't forget that yesterday was like a big bump up in market. Last couple of months have been a big rise in market. We must be prepared for something like this.
Okay. But Navneet, you know, I think the market is fearing the standalone BJP number at this point in time as well, and how exactly the politics are probably going to pan out. Do you think that the next 4 years, if in case these numbers do come through, the government might be a little more populist, and that's what the street is probably fearing?
No, I don't think so. I mean, depends
just
on
to
you know,
buttress her point. The bond market seems to think so, because the yields have gone up from overnight 6.94 to 7.12. I can't remember when 18 basis points rise in yields.
On a single day.
Yeah, which means 3 rupees bond prices have fallen.
But maybe a month back, we were at 7.12. So
yeah,
I think
it's entirely because of the RBI dividend.
The RBI dividend
and the bond index inclusion
took us below 7%. I think if